What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Casual Big Ten Podcast. Today is Monday, July 24th, 2023, week 3 of the preseason football episode. So excited to be back on today's show. I have Brandon Dubich. We're going to talk about Indiana football. We're going to talk about Tom Allen. We're going to talk about the transfers. We're going to talk about, hey, is Indiana going to be any good this year? We're going to discuss that. Brandon and I had such a good time. What a great interview. Thank you to Brandon for coming on the show. For anybody that's watching on YouTube, thank you so much, first of all, for, checking in, seeing what I look like. You're going to see the same hat and same sweater for the next 5 days because I'm recording all these intros and outros on the same night. I got my bottle of Ciroc right here. I'm getting ready to go on vacation, and I got up against the what do you call it? I'm against the wire. What's that called? It's starting to get to the point where I don't have time, is what I'm trying to say. But anyways, I'm gonna be recording all these intros and outros. Brandon appreciates that. He knows what it's all about, man. Hope you guys have been enjoying all these preseason episodes, and I hope that you enjoy this Indiana preview as much as I enjoyed hanging out with Brandon. Okay, joining us now is Brandon Dubich. He is coming in highly recommended from a podcast I've been following for a while, Often Daunted. He's an Indiana grad, and he is going to be our Indiana expert while we preview the upcoming IU football season. You kind of opened your eyes a little bit right there. Are you an Indiana football expert?
So it's funny. Let me take you through a very short story here, my man. So I went to IU from 2006 to 2011. Do you want to guess how many IU football games I went to?
I'm going to say, because you're asking like that, I'm going to say low. I'll say 3.
That would be too high. I went to absolutely 0 football games. I'm from Pittsburgh. I grew up a Pitt fan. When I went to IU, obviously I dropped my Pitt fandom and became an IU fan. But it wasn't much on the basketball or on the football side, to be completely honest. But then graduated IU, and 2013 was a chance to get 125 alumni points. Now, I'm not sure how alumni points work to other schools, but that's equivalent to $125,000.
Yeah.
At age 23, I didn't have $125,000 to donate. At age 35, I don't have $125,000
Right?
to donate. And all you had to do was sign up for football, basketball, and baseball, and you got 125,000 alumni points. So I signed up to be a season ticket holder in 2013, and then I kind of fell in love with the team. Kevin Wilson was slinging things during those ages. His offenses were super fun, right? Tevin Coleman actually made it to the Heisman ceremony. So I kind of came on at the right time, and it's been a roller coaster. So when I say expert, I follow it very closely, but only have about a decade of expertise. So, if other Hoosier fans want to talk about, the glory years in the 80s and early 90s, I don't know how much help I'm going to be for you there.
Well, you're definitely more of an expert than I am. I would say that this may or may not come as a surprise to you, but I think that Indiana is the team that I know the least about in the Big Ten.
There we go.
So I'm really excited to kind of pick your brain about some of these things that are going to happen. I'm interested, though, one more thing about you. While you were at Indiana, did you go to a lot of basketball games, though, or was it?
I didn't miss one, and ironically, that's when they were the worst.
Oh, okay.
So my sophomore year, 2007, was when Kelvin Sampson got fired.
Oh, yeah.
And they got stripped of the entire team, and they won like 6 games.
Brutal.
I did not see an NCAA tournament win in my 5 years. I'm not a doctor. 5 years I was at IU, didn't see a single tournament win.
Wait, 5 years? That's good, man. I was in for 5.5.
Look at us. Combined, we are a doctor.
That's right. All right, let's jump into this football stuff, though. I'm very interested about the coaches from each team, and I always like to start with that. Coach Allen has been there for a while now. It seems like I think it's 7 years now.
Yeah, yep.
7 years.
Okay.
He was 4-8 last year. He's got 6 combined wins the last 2 years. He's 10 games under 500. No bowl victories throughout his tenure. What is the vibe from the fan base and you specifically about the job Coach Allen's doing and will project to do this year?
Yeah. So the fan base, he's really lost the fan base. The casuals, I guess, as we sit on casual banter, right? He's certainly lost the casuals, but you know, there's the diehards that sort of know he's the best we can get.
Yeah.
Honestly, he's recruited at a higher level than anyone has. The top 4 out of 5 recruiting classes since recruiting classes started have come under Tom Allen.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
He wins the state regularly, or as much as you can when you're going against Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, etc.
Yeah.
Right? So personally, I don't know, the risk reward, right, to fire him and restart is not there. Right?
Yeah.
So while it's been disappointing, in my mind, it's not because he's a bad head coach. I think he's learning through getting the right people around him.
Gotcha.
Right? He's kind of hired his buddies. I don't know what kind of work you do, but that's never a good idea to work with your friends.
Yeah.
So I think he's learning through that, and I think he still has a chance to grow as a coach through the other things other than recruiting. So for me, it's a lot more of a risk reward on whether we cut ties with Tom Allen and then what's the ceiling we can get in a coach. Personally.
Yeah, the expectations from an outsider's perspective like mine seem to be a little bit lower at Indiana. So what would it take for him this year, win total wise, to win those casuals back, as you say?
He's got to win a bowl game. I mean, the reality is IU has not won a bowl game since 1993.
That's a long time.
Now we've been into a half a dozen of them and have lost, some in painful fashion. You know, the most recent one to Tennessee. I was at that. Michael and I were at that game down in Jacksonville. Had a 98.7% win percentage at one point in the fourth quarter. I don't know if you remember, it was about 8 years ago against Utah where they made a field goal to go to overtime, but the refs missed the call, and you can't review a field goal.
That.
Yeah, it was in, I forget which bowl it was, but it was definitely against Utah. It was brutal. It was a brutal. So we joke here in Indiana that IU invents ways to lose, like that no one has ever done before. So yeah, I mean, if all you have to do is win a bowl game. Like you said, the standard is low.
Yeah.
The standard, if you go 6-6, win a bowl game, 7-6, people are freaking back. That's literally all it is going to take.
That's it.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm a Detroit Lions fan, by the way, so I know all about inventing ways to lose football games, man. You might get me to be a Hoosiers fan by the end of this podcast, the way that you're talking, man. I'm used to that. You talked about how well he's done, relatively speaking, in recruiting. A big thing nowadays is the transfer portal. The biggest name that came in is I don't want to say this wrong, but it's Taven Jackson. And we're going to talk about.
That's curious that you say that. That's curious because it's the quarterback, but I would sort of disagree.
Okay,
a little bit.
I'm glad you said that then because I think most important position, quarterback. So,
of course.
Right now up on the screen, I do have a picture of Anthony Jones from Oregon, the linebacker. I'm personally excited to see what he's going to do this year. Is there any other names that I haven't just mentioned that are coming in that you're excited about?
So I'm certainly not expecting this kind of season out of IU. But do you remember it was either 2 or 3 years ago where Michigan State completely overhauled their roster and they brought in like 24 transfers and it just clicked.
Yeah.
Right. Well, all Indiana diehards are really hoping that this class is what Michigan State did a few years ago. They brought in 23 transfers.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Right. So I'm obviously not going to go through those. I'm going to burn through a couple. But we have JoJo Johnson coming from Notre Dame. Our secondary was horrible. Our secondary was, I think, in the low 100s in passing yards allowed, right? We bring in Kobe Minor, cornerback from Texas Tech. We bring in a Texas safety transfer. Um, now, secondary isn't the only reason why your pass game is bad, right? You
Yeah.
also need edge rushers. And I would say Linnell Carter from West Virginia
Okay.
is and Andre Carter, who hot take and Andre Carter will be an all Big Ten player this year, are equally as important as Taven Jackson.
And those guys are
Now
both rushers then?
they are, yeah.
Okay,
So
cool.
added Anthony Jones,
Yep.
Andre Carter, and Linnell Carr all coming off the edge. IU had absolutely no pressure last year. Um, its defense was just pathetic. Everyone looks at the offense,
Mhm.
right, as it struggles, and IU was also bad. It was 94th or 96th in offense. The defense was even worse. So IU brought in a ton of defensive help. Did you see the stat that I saw on Big Ten Banter actually that IU has the third and fourth best linebackers according to PFF coming
No.
in?
I did not see that.
Yeah, one was and we'll talk about him later. The other one is Josh Rudolph from
Okay.
Austin P. He's coming in as the fourth best rated linebacker. So our entire starting defense is going to be brand new. It
Yeah.
wouldn't surprise me if 8 or 9 guys, which is needed when your defense is
Yeah.
that bad, right? You
Right.
need to totally flip the script.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what Tom Allen did. He went out and pretty much got an entirely new defense at all 3 levels: edge rusher, interior D, linebackers, cornerbacks. And I think that is going to be equally as important because IU just couldn't stop anyone
Yeah.
last year, which was super disappointing because Tom Allen's a defensive coach. So, uh, so yeah. So what do you know about Taven Jackson
Well,
before I kind of go into him and why I think he's going to be successful?
I know that he's from Tennessee, and I know that he
Yep.
didn't play a ton there, and I
Nope.
know that's all I really know about him. And I know that according to OurLads.com, he's the starting quarterback as of right now. I don't
Love
know.
our lads.
That's what I wanted to get into with you is what
Yeah.
is the quarterback situation? Is he the starter? Is it his job to
Yeah.
lose? And what can we expect from him if he is, or whoever's going to be playing behind center or
Yeah.
under center?
So there's a Pittsburgh color analyst, radio guy named Mark Madden. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but he has this really annoying saying where he says, "No QB, no chance."
Yeah.
And that's why IU went 2-10 and 4-8 the
Mm-hmm.
last 2 years. I mean, they had something called a Connor Bazelak, which honestly, IU's had some really bad quarterbacks. I can't think of anyone worse than Connor Bazelak. Both you and I could have more accuracy than he does. I hate speaking ill
I
will
can
of.
sling it, man. Man, put me behind center, like, dude. I'll go out there and sling a couple of them.
There we go. So yeah, no, that's been the issue the last 2 years. Dexter Williams came in a little bit and was electric with his feet.
Yeah,
He beat Michigan State by throwing 7 yards, though. Like
yeah,
that's been our quarterback situation 2 years. I don't expect Taven Jackson to light the world on fire. I
okay,
really don't. I do think he will be the best quarterback IU has had in the past 3 years. Again, running theme, really low bar. I expect him to be average to below average. I think you guys put out rankings, and I think you had him at 11. I think that's a little low, but I think 7 to 10. 7
okay,
to 10 is probably where I see him falling in just on natural talent alone. I
yeah,
mean, this guy's got wheels. He's got an arm. He just kind of needs to learn the system a little bit, which every first year quarterback does. So I'm excited for him. Talent wise, I think he's the best quarterback IU's had since I've been a fan.
yeah,
Peyton Ramsey supporters are probably going to get a little mad at that. But I really do think talent wise, he's the best. Truth is, it's really hard to find success as a redshirt freshman in the Big Ten.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
that's
one guy he'll have helping him out is one of my favorite players that Indiana had last year is Cam Camper. Um, I was surprised because I'm not a big stat guy and I don't remember
yeah,
stats that well. So I was looking up his
yeah.
stats before we started recording today. Only had 2 touchdowns last year, but his game doesn't really go on the stat sheet. It feels like every time I was watching Indiana, he was making big catches in big moments when they had a few of those big moments last year. What's can he be an impact player from the position that he's playing? And is Taven going to be able to get him the ball?
Yeah. So if Connor Bazelak can get him the ball, I have no issues
Yeah,
with God. That's horrible. I'm a horrible person. But yeah, I have no issues with Taven. It's just he's coming off an ACL, man.
yeah.
It's the thing that I'm excited about though is he wasn't a shifty receiver. He is all about hands and positioning, which I do think he can bounce back from. He is a jump ball guy. I mean, he is just a go up and get it. So I'm that I think will translate quicker than somebody that needs to use their speed and leverage and shiftiness
Mm-hmm.
to dominate at that position. So yeah, I think Cam is going to be a huge asset, especially getting first downs, moving the chains. Um, the game that I went to where he was just unstoppable was Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
There was not a corner that could stop him
Yeah.
at Ohio State, which is again insanely impressive. But why I think he'll even succeed even more is because again that transfer portal. Do you remember EJ Williams? You
Yeah.
probably don't,
I
but
actually do. Yeah. I remember the
so
name.
he was either a high 4-star or a low 5-star. He had 1 year with Trevor Lawrence, and he put up video game numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was with DJ Ukulele for the last 2 years and put up absolutely nothing. Like
Yeah.
just completely disappeared off the face of the earth. Um, and so he transfers in. He's going to be on the opposite side of Cam Camper. So you have
Perfect.
EJ Williams on one side and Cam Camper on the other side. And then a guy who, I don't know, he was an All American. Maybe you've heard of him. We'll have, do you know who I'm talking about?
I don't actually know. Go ahead.
Jalen Lucas. He was not just a freshman All American, he was an All American as a returner. He's Rondale Moore if IU was good. Now that is lofty, but I think he has he definitely has the size of Rondale Moore. But you're going to line him up in the slot, and you're going to have EJ Williams and Cam Camper on the outside. That's pretty dangerous, right?
How am I completely missing this guy? What's his last name again?
Jalen Lucas. He was a true freshman last year. He was actually a two-lane flip either on early signing day or a little bit before. He actually
Okay.
wanted to go to LSU. No surprise.
Yeah.
But LSU didn't end up not offering him. So he flipped to IU like very, very late. And he is an absolute stud.
Oh, they have him. That's why I'm missing him. They have him in the running backs spot instead of the slot receiver spot.
Yeah. Yeah. So because I mean he came out of high school as a running back, but they
Okay.
line him up everywhere.
Okay.
Literally just like Rondale Moore. Like that he plays the same exact role. He'll be in the outfield, he'll be an H-back, he'll be in the slot. He'll even sometimes be wide as a decoy all by himself. They actually used him really, really well last year. And I think as those three receivers, Taven doesn't have to be great. He just has to be average with those three guys on the outside. And that's dangerous.
Yeah.
That's
So
dangerous.
who's the starting running back then? Who's the guy that's going to be
Yeah.
carrying the load for them? And what percentage do you think he's going to be carrying the ball for them?
That's a great question because while I love our passing attack, I think we have to be a run team. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to win shootout games. We're going to have to win time of possession, especially how good the Big Ten East is. You just can't get into those kind of matchups, right? So Josh Henderson is going to be the bell cow, but I don't know how much of a gambler you are, how much you
Big
like
time.
talking about gambling.
Oh,
But I watched a
please.
lot of Wake. lot of Wake Forest the past 2 years. Wake Forest won me a ton of overs. Just Wake Forest. It doesn't matter if it was in the high 50s or 60s. Wake Forest and the over. So IU got Christian Turner, which was kind of their third down dynamic back. He had over 1,000 yards last year. He had 700 to 800 yards a year before that. So I think Josh Henderson and Christian Turner make for a decent 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
Definitely middle of the pack in the Big Ten, right?
It's tough to be a running back in the Big Ten right now, man. There's so many good backs.
There's so many. Yeah. So like where I don't think Josh Henderson or Christian Turner are elite backs, there's no drop off from 1 to 2.
Yeah.
Which you like to see for sure.
So you mentioned switching sides of the ball back one more time. We had Carter and Carr that you were talking about, the defensive edge rushers that are joining the team this year. But I know there was at least one more guy that you wanted to talk about to circle this year for us casuals that we can say this is the dude on Indiana's defense we need to be watching.
He's the Canadian maniac, right? or at least that's what I call him. His name's Aaron Casey, and he's an absolute stat stuffer. He's exactly what you want in a 4-2-5 inside linebacker. He shuts everything down in the middle. Now, like any 4-2-5, if you get him going side to side, not his game, but you are not running him over. You are not pushing him backwards. Aaron Casey will be a captain, and he will be the heart and soul. And he might be the only returning starter defense. And I'm okay with that because the Canadian maniac is super fun. He's very, very passionate, which I love. I'm a passionate guy. So Aaron Casey, mark it down, casuals. That's the guy. Opposing offenses don't want to get going, because he'll rack up 10, 12, 13 tackles on you. A couple of those for loss.
Anything with Canadian in it, like I'm gonna get behind. I'm not Canadian, but like that's a great nickname. Anything with Canadian, you could have said anything after.
I just made that up on the spot.
Oh, did you? Do we want to improve it a little bit, or no? Or do you think that's it? Because I don't know if maniacs like rolls off the tongue as well as like something we could do, like the Canadian
clobber. I mean, we're gonna go for the alliteration. Right? You want to go alliteration. You want to go with the linebacker, the Canadian clobber. Yeah. I don't know.
That's way better. I like that better.
I'll have to storyboard it, but that's the best I could do on the spot.
That was excellent. I love it. That was really good. All right. I'm going to try to keep you under 30 minutes here, so I want to go through the schedule before I let you go. I like to tell people what I predicted before you tell me what is going to happen this year because you're the expert. I have you guys finishing in 5th place in the Big Ten East. I have you going 4-8, 2-7 in the conference, which is tied with Michigan State, but I have you beating Michigan State. So that gives you guys a little bit of a leg up and has you finishing in 5th place. The other wins that I have, let me just scroll down real quick. I got you guys beating Indiana State, Akron, Rutgers, and then, like I just said, Michigan State. When I go through the schedule, I like to break it down into thirds. So we'll do like the first part of the season, the middle, and then the last. So you start out with Ohio State, Indiana State, Louisville, and Akron. And the home games are all of them. You're at home for all of them. Starting out with a Big Ten game, how do you see the first 4 games going?
Yeah, so you want to go 2-2 in all of these, right? I mean, that's how you draw it up. You go 2-2, everyone, you get to a bowl game. But I do think I think that's what they do here. Now, I don't know if many casuals know, but the Brominator went to Louisville. Do you know who knows how to play and scheme against Jeff Brom? IU. Tom Allen didn't have a lot of success against Jeff Brom, but he's in a first year with mostly new players in a new offense and defensive scheme. So I do think Louisville's one of those swing games.
Okay.
But for the sake of this exercise, I have us going 2-2.
Man, you're probably the most realistic expert I've had on so far. Like everybody else probably right there would have been like, we're 3-1. We're 3-1 coming out of the gates right there.
Yeah, I like our chances. Again, I mean, I think we covered the Louisville game. I think the ESPN FBI has it like a 70-30 Louisville. I see that game being closer to 60-40, 55-45, just simply because IU knows Brom and he's first year. First years are tough.
Just you like even saying that right now is like now I'm circling that week 3 is like a game that I'm extremely excited about.
Should be. It's actually in Lucas Oil too. So,
Oh, nice. That'll be
yeah.
fun. You going to that one?
No, Michael is the co-host,
Yeah.
but I am not. I'm
okay. All right. And then you have the middle part of the season. You're on the road now, Maryland and Michigan back to back, and then you come back home for Rutgers, and then go on the road to Penn State. An absolutely brutal 4-game stretch right here, minus the Rutgers game. I think going on the road to Michigan, Penn State, and even Maryland. What do you think those 4 games look like?
Nobody loves Talia more than I love Talia. He's a guy that go back to betting. He's won me a lot of money. If you win me a lot of money, I am going to pull for you. This Rutgers game, the home team normally wins this game. It's kind of sad, but whoever's home wins this game. So I have us unfortunately going 1-3. Maryland and IU always play close. Like it doesn't matter how bad one team is or how good the other team is. They always play each other close. So that's another one of those coin flip games. But I'll always give it to the home team if it's a coin flip.
So you're saying 1-3 right there, just to confirm.
1-3.
All right. So you're sitting right now at 3-5. So you need to get 3 wins this last part of the season to get to a bowl. So you're at home against Wisconsin, go to Illinois, back at home against Michigan State, and then on the road to Purdue, who is a team that I was a little higher on when I first started this summer, and I'm starting to, drift on them just a little bit. So let's finish out the season. What do the last 4 games look like?
Smart man. This is where it starts pulling at my heartstrings. Seriously, because I think 3-1 is totally possible. I really do. I think they could beat Illinois, Michigan State, and Purdue. My heart says they only get 2 there, or my brain says they only get 2, and I think it's probably Illinois and MSU, and then for bowl game eligibility, West Lafayette crushes our hopes. Like just as an IU fan, that's what happens, right? 5-6 going into the rivalry game to a team that we're, I think even to, right? I think Purdue and IU are very even this year. And yeah, I think they break our hearts and we go 5-7 and miss the bowl season again.
I hate to hear that, man. I was cheering for you this whole time. I was like, you guys are gonna make one.
It's possible they run 3-0 on that stretch. I don't think IU, Illinois, Michigan State's awful. Like Michigan State's bad. And Purdue's all winnable. I mean, it really comes down for me. It comes down to Purdue, Louisville, and Maryland. If they can get one of those 3 games, IU's going bowling.
Yeah.
That's all they have to do is grab one of those 3 games. That's what the season boils down to. Really,
I think that a lot will depend, especially that last game, on what Purdue's record is. And if they're trying to fight for a 6th win possibly, and see what they're doing, then it really changes the outlook of that game and who's trying, not trying harder. They're all going to try hard, but
of course,
who's got something to play for.
Yep.
So that'll be really interesting. One last thing about scheduling stuff. I've been asking almost everybody what you think of the new format. We're switching. We're getting away from divisions next year, and how it affects the whole conference, how it affects Indiana directly. What do you think about getting rid of the divisions and adding the 2 teams that we're adding?
So I'll put it in reverse, right? How it affects Indiana massively to not have to play what I think is the most difficult conference side in the entire country. I don't want to hear any of this SEC BS. It's the hardest side there is. So it's massively important and will have a big factor. I think it'll even have an even big factor for the Big Ten. I sent this in the group chat. Let me find this real quick. Since 2014, the East has lost 59-0, 55 or 45-24.
This is the West has
42-3. Yeah, it's 9 straight years of losses, and the Big Ten championship hasn't been competitive except for 1 game.
It's the Michigan State Wisconsin game.
Yeah. That's the only game that's been competitive.
Yeah,
It's the worst conference title game every year.
I
That's
agree.
massively important for the Big Ten because one, for TV ratings, and two, for legitimacy. Like if a Big Ten East wins their conference championship game, nobody cares. It doesn't do anything,
Hmm.
you know. But if when we get inevitably Michigan State, Ohio State, rematch year after year after year, it's gonna get old, but it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I think it's great for the conference too. I know that I feel like everyone's kind of bringing that up that it's going to happen, but like the rematch of Michigan versus Ohio State, like the week after they just played. But I
Yeah.
honestly don't think it's going to happen that often. I really don't think it will. And like you said, it's better for the conference to have a better conference championship game that people
Yep.
are actually going to want to watch. I borderline didn't even want to watch last year. You knew what was going to happen, and then it happened. It was
Yeah,
pointless. You're done watching in like the first quarter, and you're just
the
like,
the only thing I loved it was Purdue getting shellacked. I mean, that was as an IU fan, that because yeah, I mean we're going way over, but IU should have beat that Purdue team
yeah,
until Dexter Williams' leg snapped.
yeah.
That was
All
that
right.
was
His
gross.
name is Brandon Dubich, and he is on Twitter at Brandon Dubich. And
Woo!
Brandon, thank you so much for
Yeah.
coming on and talking to us about Indiana football and showing us a little bit of what's going to happen this year and previewing. Thank you so much, man. Hopefully, we'll get to talk to you mid-season about what's going on.
All right, man. It was a blast.
All
Take it
right, we'll
easy.
talk to you soon. Once again, that was Brandon Dubich. He's at Brandon Dubich on Twitter. You just heard that. You just heard that during the interview. Had a great time with Brandon. Brandon, thank you so much for coming on and talking Hoosiers foosball for the upcoming 2023 season. Man, I'm excited. It's getting close, baby. Man, I keep saying it, but each episode that comes out, it's getting closer and closer. We're marking off the days. It's almost football time, baby. On tomorrow's show, let me double check and make sure I know who's coming. Who do we got tomorrow? Who is it? It's the Boys Down Bad. Boys Down Bad podcast. We're talking Nebraska football, the Cornhuskers. We're going to the Corn Hub. Boys Down Bad tomorrow on the show. Looking forward to it, man. We'll see you guys in the future.
Everything